For Americans, I think no matter where you fall on the political spectrum in terms of left, right, Democrat, Republican, I think the one thing we can all agree on is Congress is very old. All of our political leaders in this country are ancient. I think the average age for a US senator is like 64, which is very old. That is almost retirement age. And the thing about being an old politician is it's not like being like an old movie star. Harrison Ford is old, but whenever you see Harrison Ford, he's being presented in an ideal way. He's gone through hair and makeup and they're showing him to look like they're trying to make him look good. But if you're in Congress, you're just in Congress. People got to see you. So you spend all day under these harsh, fluorescent lights and you look every bit of 64 years old, maybe even worse because of the stress and because people are always mad at you. People like when you point out that Congress people serve in Congress forever and they're all super old and out of touch. Some people like to get like their conspiracy hat on and they talk about Nancy Pelosi trading stocks. They show her portfolio and how much money she's made. It's like, oh yeah, that's what it is. She's trying to make money and she's trying to, leverage her role as a congressperson as to do some sort of insider trading thing. But it's like if you really think about it, Nancy Pelosi, any congressperson could leave Congress and make 10 times as much money working in the private sector. Nancy Pelosi could make so much money working as a lobbyist or just as like a consultant on the board of some company. She would make way more money outside of Congress. I think the real thing that we're looking at here that people don't really talk about, the reason why Congress people and politicians stay in politics forever is because they really love doing it. It's crazy to say, but I think that is the most obvious answer to the problem. And it makes sense if you really think about what it is they do. Because old people, if you've ever known an old person who retires from a full-time career, it's weird for them at first. They all look forward to it for a little while, but then once they get it, they realize, no, I actually don't like this. Actually, I want to go back to doing stuff. But by that point, you're already retired and you're old, so nobody wants you to do anything for them. Human beings have the need to be needed. People want to feel like they're valuable, like they want to be in the action. There's a decision being made, they want to be in the middle of it. They want to be in a negotiation and they want to be dealing with a project that takes a while and eventually it resolves and you conquered it. That's what life is. People think that they want to retire and they want to they want everything to be a vacation. They want to be on the beach. That gets old quick. What people who really have jobs, people who have jobs where they really do stuff, complex, high level, like, the kind of job where you're negotiating, where you're delegating and you're teaming up with people and there's, it's politics. There's alliances and backstabbing and you're, making late night phone calls. That is engagement. That is what they call, the flow state. That's the kind of work where you really sink your teeth into it and it becomes all encompassing. And that's what these people love doing, especially in Congress and something like, the Senate, because you see someone like Bernie Sanders and he is 1,000 years old. Bernie Sanders has been in Congress since like the 70s. But the thing with Congress is that it's not just being in Congress. It's being, you get put on like a committee chair. You get put in everybody has their little assignments. But the good assignments they're based on seniority. It's based on how long you've worked in government, how long you've been in the Democratic Party, you've been in the team. So it takes, you get there and you get elected to Congress and you're, in your 40s maybe, and they put you in charge of like the national parks or some bullshit talking about like water purity or something. And it's not until you're in Congress for 30, 40 years that you finally get on the budget committee. You're finally making high level decisions. So it's like, yeah, of course, those people never want to leave. It's like getting a good parking spot. You wait around for hours and finally you get the good parking spot in front of your building. You put your car there and you never leave. You don't leave until they force you to leave, until you have a medical emergency. And even then, you still stick around. People forget Bernie Sanders had a heart attack like 6 years ago. He was on the campaign trail and he took like a week off and he was just back out in the mix because that's what that's how much he loves being a senator. That's how much he loves public speaking. That's how much he loves his staff and he wants to be in the halls of Congress, ordering people around and trying to get things done. Because that's the thing people don't understand. And I think the real disconnect between voters and the general public and like politicians, and even when you talk about, CEOs of big companies, is that when you're a regular person and you work a regular person's job, you can't even envision what it's like to love your job. Maybe some days you have good days, some days you have a little fun, you get a bonus at the end of the year, but you've never actually experienced the flow state of being needed, of doing important work. And that is something that is so missing in the private sector. Most jobs are bureaucratic bullshit, the kind of job that anybody could do if you just put them in the seat for a little while. But there are just a small handful of jobs in society where you do get to make decisions, where you do get to see your vision fulfilled. And those are the jobs that nobody ever wants to leave. That's the reason why Elon Musk keeps inventing these fake companies. He has like 20 kids, but he's like, no, you know what? I'm going to start a tunnel company. I'm going to start the AI company. We're going to do Neuralink, so we're going to put something in your brain. This dude has all the money in the world. He could be doing anything he wants. What he wants to be doing is being in meetings. He wants to be the guy in the meeting that everybody's looking at, like, oh, what should we do? And he makes up some bullshit about a tunnel that's going to go under Utah. And then, some sort of like, he gets one of his guys to draw a fancy picture and everybody gets excited. That is heaven for these people. And it's something that people like me or you probably can't really relate to. The feeling of, look, Elon Musk like sleeps at his office. You can't get that guy away from work. And you got to think most of his stuff that he does is bullshit. It's fake. Imagine working in Congress where you're actually doing real stuff all day long. And it's not just real stuff, but there is a whole game to it because you're on one side and these other people are on the other side. So they're trying to stop you. So it's not just work, but it's also a battle. It's a constant chess game and a negotiation. And that is why we're never, ever going to get these people to leave. People like talking about term limits. We got to add some sort of maximum age for a congressman. And it's like, that law is never going to get passed because they're the ones who have to pass that law. And this is an issue where one of the rare issues where Democrats and Republicans, the politicians at least, agree on, which is we love our jobs and we're never leaving. So that is never going to happen. The better way to actually convince people to leave government and to retire gracefully and not be old as hell and getting in the way, it really is, it's got to come from competition. We got to find some way to make regular work not bullshit. It's got to be more fulfilling. If you can make jobs that regular people do where they can feel this kind of agency that politicians and CEOs feel, if you can make people feel like you're in, you're important and you're needed and they still want you there, then they won't get stuck in these small handful of jobs because at this point, they're never going to leave. So if you are frustrated by it, it's like, I get it. But you got to understand, no matter how much you think you like your job or maybe you have a good life, your life actually kind of sucks, but you don't even realize it yet because you've never actually been in a position to do real stuff. And I mean, I'm trying my best. I'm sure you're trying your best. Hopefully, someday we get to do it. And, I'm not that old, so I still have some years before I can get there. But let me tell you, if I ever do get that to that level where I can do all the things I want to do, I have all my projects and ideas in my head can actually be manifested in real life. I'm never ever retiring. You're going to have to drag me out of the White House because I got all kinds of ideas and they got to get done.